Drink the Nation is a podcast for thoughtful, informed adults, preferably with a pour in hand. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the hosts and guests only, and do not reflect the views of any employers, institutions, licensing boards, government agencies, bourbon distilleries, or family members, especially our family members. They've asked us to be very clear about that. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical, psychiatric, legal, or professional advice. If you're in crisis, call a professional. If you're mad at something we said, we suggest journaling or emailing us with civility. We're here to challenge ideas, not diagnose strangers. We're clinicians, not your clinicians, and we have the bourbon to prove it. Let's go. And we're back. Shrink the Nation on the couch with America. Guys, it's been so long since I've seen all of your hideous faces. It's so good this is on radio.
Seems like yesterday, David. Seems like yesterday.
It's good to see everybody. And look, Amit's back. How fortuitous to get him 2 episodes in a row. Okay, imagine this. The United States walks into a therapist's office, sits down on the couch and says, "Doc, I'm the greatest country on earth, but I feel anxious, divided, and I'm not sure who I am anymore. If America were a patient, what would its psychological profile look like? Let's break it down. Welcome to Shrink the Nation."
Nice. Diffuse
There we go.
identity
Yeah.
disorder, my friend.
There we go. All right, show's over. That was it. Thanks, guys. We're done. Thanks for tuning in. Smash that subscribe button. Leave a positive comment.
Extremely efficient show.
It was the most efficient podcast you've ever listened to. Get back to whatever you were supposed to be doing. I'm David, board certified psychiatrist, twice boarded actually. I have 20 plus years in the military, and I am still the tech guy, which means that I'm the schlub who gets to do all the computery stuff. It means I'm up first, because if anybody else starts talking, I just mute them. And then they can't. So I get to go first. Today, I am drinking Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon 100 proof.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yikes. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to make it through this one. This is for Rob. The mash bill is typically consisting of 75% core, 15% rye. I'm in trouble if I'm already struggling this early in the episode, by the way. And then 10% malted barley. Jesus. It is aged around 4 to 6 years. And the distillery is Brown-Forman in Louisville. So I think I said that
does
right.
sound like a bourbon that I would enjoy. Nice
Wait,
mix.
just watch.
Let me just ask you, was this supplied to you for the show, David?
No, unfortunately, we are still, strangely enough, looking for, on our 10th episode, congratulations, we made it this far.
Yay.
With absolutely zero support and nobody asking for 10 episodes. We've made it, gentlemen.
Shocking.
We made it. Yeah, it is shocking, but we made it 10 episodes. So we're still looking for any bourbon distillery who wants to send us. I mean, at this point, honestly, send us your bottom barrel stuff. We'll, just the bottom shelf, like whatever. We'll
send us your old crow.
Just make it strong.
Just send us the old crow that you found in the back, like sitting behind the heater. I don't know
about this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Just send it. Whatever. We'll talk you up. Carl's Bourbon Shack. Send us this.
Anyway, hey, I'm Rob. And I've been a psychiatrist for a very long time, board certified, blah, blah, blah. And I am unfortunately not drinking at all.
Again?
Right now.
Still?
How
did you?
Gosh, I thought you were on a bourbon show.
So I am having a lovely coffee. It is Dunkin Donuts. So I can't even really. There's nothing to be said. I'm just drinking coffee.
Well, what Dunkin Donuts? Maybe we can get Dunkin Donuts to send us some coffee or something. Could we at least get some Dunkin Donuts coffee? Yeah.
Or
send us some coffee.
Ben Affleck or Matt Damon.
If they would,
the podcast.
We could get them on the podcast. Yeah.
Yes.
We just get some coffee. We could be like we drink the bourbon at the beginning and then the coffee at the end.
We'd probably make more sense that way. Yes.
Okay. We'll try something.
All right,
Keith, you're up. Keith, you're up.
Yeah, big thunderstorm, lights flickering.
Another one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is it still? It's stormy again.
I'm Keith, just like everyone else. What they said, psychiatrist, all that good stuff. I think we're all veterans here. A couple of days ago, I embarrassed everybody by drinking V8. Today's show, since I don't have bourbon, I thought I would have a little bit of gin and then a beer, and you put them together. Like I think that's actually Rob how bourbon's made.
Gin and beer mixed.
As close as I could get. to bourbons. I'm trying
What
to do
kind of
my part.
gin? What kind of gin? Don't tell me Bombay. I'm gonna be. What's wrong with Bombay?
It's like boodles.
Okay.
It was the
We-
lowest. It was the lowest price.
The juniper berry.
The juniper berry.
The magic of the juniper berry.
We had a little intervention with Keith after last time. It was reminiscent of Full Metal Jacket and Sock Party like,
Yeah.
but he got the message. It was no more V8 on the Bourbon Show. You're next, Rob. You're next.
I
Rob
already went.
It's me.
No, you were next with the coffee.
For the
with the coffee.
No,
Jeez.
I get it. I
Be
am
prepared.
absolutely. I am totally breaking protocol. I get it.
And Rob
there-
says
twice.
it's coffee. We don't really know what's inside that coffee.
Yeah, there's a
True.
time differential that I'm experiencing right now that makes it very difficult to keep up with you guys. Yeah, I know. Why don't you drink bourbon at 6 a.m., Rob? It's
Wah. Plenty of time to sober up for the day.
You just need more experience, Rob. You can get there.
Yeah.
I can get there.
Your liver's
Practice.
whining really loud right now.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to start making all sorts of sense later in the show. That's a problem.
All right, I'll keep
Here.
it going. I'll keep us going. So, hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. Amit. I'm a psychiatrist, still child, and I got about 19 years of experience in the field. And we'll get started.
What are you drinking? Wait, what?
Yes, I
Breaking
forgot.
protocol.
I broke
What is
protocol,
going on
right.
here, guys? Guys, this is the 10th episode. If we can't get this right,
Yeah.
what are our tens of listeners?
Well,
They're hanging there. Come on, there are tens of people at home or in their car or just asleep, and this just happened to come on their Spotify. Okay,
that's right.
So
Completely
we're listening
random,
to
like,
this.
What the hell are we listening to?
Yeah, and they are confused right now about what the hell is going on. We
Well,
got to
you
get
know,
this right.
Since you
Square-
had your
get squared
tin
up.
cup experience last time, I decided to go back to my still relatively full bottle of tin cup 14er. So I am enjoying that now, and it is still fantastic.
Thank you. Was that so hard?
No.
Was that
No.
so hard, people? Jeez, we're
Very
gonna really
rigid,
celebrate.
very rigid parent on this show. You are, David.
We were all raised in the military. I feel
You're
like
giving me a
if we can't
personality disorder.
if we can't get this right. Speaking of which, great segue. So personality disorders, the
Yeah.
nation. That's
Keep
what we're
talking.
talking about. What the hell are we talking about? Since Rob is our designated driver today,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Apparently.
gonna let him.
Which,
Let's
which
start
I
about
think
that.
I think it's
And
a
an
decent.
expert on personality disorders.
Well, I think
And
it's
having
well,
one, yes.
having one. Yeah, no doubt. It does lend itself well, and I think it's a good SOP to have a DD
SOP.
on each.
What are you talking
SOP.
about, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's a good SOP to have a DD on each and every episode
No.
to drive us forward. But
Don't ruin the format 10 episodes in.
so when
I'll
we,
mute you so quick.
no doubt, when we envisioned this, what we ended up chatting about was this concept that the nation has a personality and that we could discuss that personality and discuss it in terms as if it was an individual. And through that process of discussing it, interesting things might come out. And I think we also were thinking about hanging out and drinking together. Was part
That
of
might
this.
have been the driving force
Maybe.
for this, but
Maybe. So let's think
does-
about
how do 3 psychiatrists convince their spouses to let them
exactly.
for an hour and a half at a time to drink bourbon
Yeah.
and sit on the internet? Apparently, playing video games is not adult enough.
We're not rated high enough, David, to talk about this.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to request from my esteemed colleagues for this episode is that we're going to approach the United States as if it were a person that comes to us for psychotherapy, has a unified personality. And I realize that it's a touch of a stretch that a nation isn't a person, it is a collection of people. It does certainly have an identity that is bottom up and top down. For this episode, I thought it would be interesting to just approach it like it is a individual.
Are we
And
allowed to prescribe for this country? And can I refer it directly to Keith?
I mean, honestly,
I-
it really depends on its insurance plan, really.
Does it have an insurance card?
well, if I was going to send it to anyone, it would be Keith. I would think Keith probably would have the skill set to best treat this individual.
Cash or
Uncle Sam, I'm sending him to Keith.
So, like to talk about our nation as a patient.
Yes.
and what we can do about that?
Well, I'm actually more interested if we can, and I don't want to get too dense and I don't want to get too jargony. And I realize our audience are not all psychiatrists,
Wait,
but
what?
maybe none
I
of
think
them
maybe
are.
they
in
are. I
fact.
think maybe they are.
Our tens of listeners.
Our tens of
There's
listeners.
only
Mom
10,
and
so it could be
dad.
But
And
I'm curious for your knowledge, and each of us. I mean, I think it's a nature being a psychiatrist is that you find yourself drifting towards certain psychological thought based on your own life and what resonates with you. So I'm actually mostly curious. I have my own ideas, but I'm mostly curious as to if you were going to formulate, do a, everyone can remember being in residency and having to do these formulations, these psychodynamic formulations for patients. But if you were going to formulate this for the United States as a person, and again, we'll call him Uncle Sam. So Uncle Sam comes to your office. How would you formulate his personality structure, the challenges that he has? What do you do for it?
does Uncle Sam work at a bicycle shop by any chance?
Gosh, I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it would sound something like, Professor Rob, this is a 300-year-old immigrant patient that comes to my office, raised in a violent, chaotic origin years and upbringing, struggled for many, many, many years of its life, looking for an identity, feeling like wasn't appreciated or respected. A stroke of luck, it developed this grandiose complex and became the world's leader and saved the world from annihilation. And now it's in its later years and it's struggling to integrate its early meaning, some of its accomplishments, maybe some discomforts about how it got to the accomplishments or the accomplishment, and then it doesn't know what it wants to be right now.
It's interesting, Keith. You're making me think of almost like you're doing therapy with Superman.
Yeah,
I've done all this stuff and I
yeah,
know I'm awesome,
yeah,
but all these people, kind of like a mixture of Superman with the Incredibles, like all these, or Watchmen, all these people are saying all these things. I'm being held to some consequences that I don't agree with. And it's very
yeah.
interesting to be in that couch listening to those concerns.
The observation that you picked it up in the Superman story, and I just sort of said that out loud off the cuff, makes it sound like it could be a collective unconscious sort of understanding, like an archetype and like a myth story, right? That we all just have.
Could just be David Corn Sweat, though.
Could be.
Speaking of, I don't see a poster anywhere. What's happening?
It's because of that 6 foot tall cutout behind you, Keith.
6'2". 6'2".
Sorry. If we were,
What are those
What-
pecs 3D?
they're absolutely 3D if you go to the movie. So if we were going to approach this from Jungian, Carl Jung standpoint, I would absolutely concur that the archetype that Uncle Sam embodies is a mixture of the hero archetype and the rebel archetype. We were born a rebel and we became a hero. And I think that there are manifestations of that. Now, there are other ways we could approach this. Since it's already come out, it's already been presented, that hero archetype is relevant. And the hero does carry a weight, challenging to hold that, particularly in the context of the limitations, struggles, the imperfections that we have.
I think it's so hard. If you think of anything in popular media regarding struggles that heroes have, one of those drives that they tend to have a lot of times is the need for pleasing people, to be seen as good, recognized and validated, because that praise, the knowledge that people see them as a good person is very valuable. It's a driving factor. When you get people who don't see that, and when you know that you can't please everybody, and some people are unhappy, or maybe there's some collateral damage, and there's grumblings about special treatment, and the expectations maybe get to be too much. You must bring world peace. Well, that's probably not going to happen. I can do certain things, but I can't change people's minds. When you start getting into those realms, I can see the disillusionment kind of settling in, and it taken away from that primary drive of, hey, I no longer feel like people see me as what I'm doing. They want me to do things that I cannot do. And when I can't do them, I get blamed and I feel like carrying on is more of a burden. Maybe I need a job change. Maybe I need something else and get away from the public eye. I think we can see that. And I certainly see that for our nation since World War II as being sort of the nation that people turn to. Now, I want to step back a little bit, because when we talk about countries, the leadership of the country is very different than the day-to-day common person in the country. So there are countries where America is not seen as the positive ally, the capitalism, the soft culture that we have imposed upon the world. without even necessarily trying to. That is seen as a negative thing. However, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to something needs to be done, they need some help, America is almost always the number one name who can help us. We see that time and time again. The past 10, 20 years, especially after 9/11 and the ongoing conflicts, the American people are saying, hey, we don't really want that role. We're spending a lot of energy, and what are we getting out of it? And a lot of times we're not getting anything out of it other than prestige potentially. But even then, it comes at a cost, because being seen as meddling in other people's affairs, not everybody's going to be happy with that. So there's mixed messages. We make enemies as well as make friends. It's not enough for most people to say, hey, why are we expending our time? And we could be spending this money instead of spending billions on the military industrial complex. Why not spend that money and take care of each other? Maybe we pulled out of certain conflicts. Now we have some extra money to spend. Where do we spend it? Well, let's not spend it on taking care of the homeless. We can spend it on these things instead. And so it turns into a very complicated scenario. The analogy of how much can you actually take on? Maybe it's too much. We're no longer the 100% good guy that we have had the mentality of in the past. So how do we deal with that? And that does cause some nervous conflict, depressed feelings.
The nature of being the hero is you are only a hero in the eyes of those who agree with you. And since World War II or before it, the United States, in order to be the hero, you had to have the villain. But from the perspective of the villain, you're not the hero. You're the villain there too. What the United States has done over the last 80 years has built up a place in the world where we have the greatest militaries with the goal of protecting everybody, but also protecting ourselves. There's no point in you protecting yourself because we got you. So no reason for you to build up an army. We'll take care of it.
Absolutely.
Which can create a lot of distrust in other places. But when there's not conflict coming in your direction, you start to have internal conflict. So you start to have that question of, well, I'm really powerful, but what for? Skeptic of the change. Anybody looking in and saying, well, why are we changing this perspective might say, well, we did build this with the goal of making sure that nobody else could challenge the king, throw us off the hill. That's why we did what we did. But now we're inviting challengers by making adjustments, even though that is invited from within because we didn't have the conflict. Now there's that question of, now what? Now we're basically saying, hey, everyone else, we want you to be just as powerful as us, but there becomes a problem. Now you have the potential for more conflict.
There is a conflict in saying the mentality of let's make sure that we are the best, while also saying you guys handle your own stuff. We focus on our own. They're not necessarily compatible. Being the best can sometimes also mean you are the person that people turn to because you are the best. And if you don't have the ability to do that, whether it's capability, time, or resources, then maybe you risk what you said, David. You risk someone else taking that spot from you.
It's the challenge of living the hero archetype. On one hand, your self-esteem is based on being a hero. On the other hand, the challenge there, in I think Superman actually is a lovely analogy, is feeling put upon and taken advantage of. We've seen that cycle, that the engagement in the world scene, and then other periods in which isolationism comes in, that we're doing too much for too many. We need to take care of ourselves, and we vacillate back and forth there. It does create a tension or a struggle. Keith, I see thoughts. I see them.
I've been listening to all these wonderful examples and ideas. And, we talked about a formulation in the beginning, and listening to all it made me think, oh, here's a really quick one. This country's in a midlife crisis.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I'm kind of like what I'm hearing. And I think you're all around the money, and I'm kind of listening
That's
going,
great.
it sounds like, you've got all this grandiose power and aspiration, and the world has, your potential has no end. And
so what we need is we need a country-sized Corvette.
We're doing some of that, right?
And a younger blonde country.
That's a way to deal with the depression of the crisis, is to act more manic and grandiose.
Buddy, you have read my mind. So Carl Jung would not do psychotherapy with anyone under the age of 35. The rationale that he had was that you needed more years in adulthood than you had in childhood in order to be at a point in which you could benefit from psychotherapy. Most of his focus was on midlife. And there's a rationale for that. His life drove that. But I absolutely think that the United States, if I was going to put us at an age, if Uncle Sam, despite the the images and the white beer. He's not that old. He's a
Uncle
30
Sam's driving an El Camino with a trunk full of ice and bush light.
Well, yeah. He's a 35-year-old person,
On a
and
bicycle.
he's facing a midlife crisis. We had our youth, and that youth was conflict, rebellion. And then we responded to that with a great deal of optimism and can-do attitude and a pretty big chip on our shoulder that we didn't have the respect that we felt we deserved. And that probably does track very nicely with our immigrant population, the folks that were drawn to the United States. They had very few options. They came here because it was the land of opportunity and they could eke out an existence for themselves. They could be successful. Whereas in the old world, they couldn't. Things were solidified. Here, it was very liquid. Here we now sit in a well-developed nation with the most powerful military that has ever existed in the history of mankind. There is no military that's ever been more powerful than we are at this moment. But we're facing an identity crisis. And in union terms, we have a significant shadow. We have a history of inequity. That's the struggle that we face, that we're the land of the free, the home of the brave, but we are carrying this history of slavery and this history of we basically destroyed the native population of this North America. And that shadow is massive. It's big and it's challenging for us to face and deal with. Here we sit with this in our middle life. How are we going to mature from a teen stance of omnipotence into a mature stance? That's where we're sitting right now. And if Uncle Sam was sitting on my couch or in my chair, this would be the question I would pose to him. I left everyone speechless. Yikes.
Well, that was our show for today. Smash that subscribe button.
Right.
This is what happens when you drink coffee.
Oh,
And
no.
Keith just left. Keith was done. He was just done with your shit. He said 30 minutes, I'm out.
I was so looking forward to his perspective. So
The next step is, as the therapist, asking Uncle Sam, asking the nation, what really is it that they want? Because I suspect that the viewpoints on the positives and the negatives has changed over the years. This nation is a lot different now than it was 200 years ago. So asking what is it that really what they're looking for, and potentially what is it that they care versus not care about. There might be certain things where it's not a big priority anymore. Maybe caring about how the world sees us is not that important. Maybe it's more important to make sure that everybody is fed and taken care of, or making sure that we're protected from across the border. There might be other things that are the priority now. And then if that's the case, then where do we go from there? I mean, that's the way I would guide that discussion into what makes you happy.
I concur, and that is the transition into middle life, giving up the motivations that drove us as a child because they weren't our motivations, they were our parental motivations.
What seemed to be important at the time, there's an expectation of this is what's important. So yes, I want to achieve that. I want to go there.
I just want to say I'm not old enough to understand any of this.
I know.
You guys. I'm still cleanly in my younger years,
You're
my
right.
youth, enjoying it.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
So next year when you
my
go
friend.
for that, we will know you've reached that point.
At any rate, as with all children, the initial motivations that we possess are not necessarily our motivations. They're our parents' motivations. It's what was given to us, what we were told are priorities and what is important. And then you get to middle life and you have to readjust. What is my motivation?
Then the people you live with at that point have different
They
expectations.
do.
So you got to factor that in
Well,
as well.
and
Because you're in
you've
a different
established
situation, different
precedence,
house.
and that precedence has weight. So where we sit as a nation is in a position in which we're middle-aged, and how do we transition into an adult?
Yeah, I think if Uncle Sam walked in and sat down right on our proverbial therapy space, I think I'd first, ask what brings you here. And then I would listen a lot and explain to Uncle Sam that what's going to happen is you're going to talk a lot. I'm going to listen a lot. I'd probably hear a bunch of themes of Uncle Sam having identities at war, identities competing, just a lot of symptoms and illness coming out of that conflict. After a while, hearing that theme over and over, I might ask Uncle Sam, so who do you want to be?
Yes. Uncle Sam may not know, though.
Well, the challenge here is that Uncle Sam is not just one person.
Shut up,
And there's
David.
a lot of competing ideas. Well, you just said Uncle Sam may not know, but why doesn't Uncle Sam know? Uncle Sam at the moment is really struggling because there's a huge divide between polar opposites on the directions that Uncle Sam is being pulled in.
But that's very human. It's very
It is.
human.
It is.
I'm going to ask you to suspend disbelief.
I don't want to suspend disbelief. No, I want to bring that to it because it is very human, and that is a struggle to sit there and say, well, what do you want? Well, he wants multiple things. He doesn't want one thing. He wants everything because he's Uncle Sam. He's not
That's
one
powerful.
person. And just like anybody, I want all of it. In order for me to be able to say, this is what I want, the reality is I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too. But
I want to be
can't
the
understand.
hero.
I want to be the hero, but I want to sit in my fortress of solitude. I want to be recognized for how great I am, but I don't want to be depended upon.
And that's a great point, David. That's really hitting it on the head. Where, yeah, I mean, you
Don't encourage David.
want to be seen.
Don't do that.
No, I think, but I think he has
Cooper's
a good
Craft.
point here. Yeah,
100
I mean,
proof.
He might be a psychiatrist here.
Brought to you, this great point on Shrink the Nation was brought to you by
Cooper's
Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve.
Got it.
This loss of executive function was brought to
And Matt Damon. Yeah. So I think you want to be seen and keep that stage. Hey, I made it, and go back to World War II and look at how I was, and I want to be at the top. But from now on, I don't want to expend my effort and energies in maintaining that position, but keep me up there because that's what I've achieved, and that should be the ongoing goal for the rest of time. And I think that's where you're getting to, David, is that if you want to maintain that, you have to work on maintaining it. Talk to any athlete, talk to anybody high performing. You cannot quit once you get that belt, once you get that medal. You have to keep on performing if you don't want someone else to take that spot. And if you don't want to put that effort into it, well, then you better be prepared to give that up and say, hey, I'm satisfied. I'm happy I won the gold in the Olympics. I'm happy with that. And I'm okay with someone else winning it next year because I've done my part and I don't feel like doing all that work to continue to maintain that because it has got consequence. There's a cost to it. And I don't want to pay that anymore. But you can't have it both ways. You can't, like you said, you can't not do the work and still, get your cake and eat it too.
It's such a struggle to even understand you want to have your cake and to eat it too if you aren't able to say it, if you're not able to put that out there and understand that there is that conflict. That's what I'm getting at.
You may feel like you don't want it, but you really do.
We're an aging quarterback. We're Brett Favre.
Whoa. What?
Does everyone remember Brett Favre, or is it just me? So Brett Favre.
Why did you get some weird text messages?
No. We're Brett Favre. So folks can remember back when Brett Favre was at the end of his career, he really struggled retiring. He really struggled transitioning from the hero into a different role. And that's where we find ourselves.
We're going to get sued now, cutting that out.
You didn't hear what he said. We're Tom Brady.
What he said,
Brett
not
Favre.
you. Not you. No.
Okay.
Hey, you will not besmirch Tom Brady, or I will. You were. You leave Tom alone. He has been through enough, goddammit. You leave Tom alone.
Oh, him and Giselle.
You leave Tom alone.
Yeah. At any rate,
leave Tom alone.
We are that aging quarterback, and we are at a point when, potentially, have we peaked? Maybe we have. And, you hang out with enough people who are in middle life, not all, but some of them hang on to the successes of the past too much. They want to maintain that excellence, that hero status.
Yeah.
And really where we're at is we have to transition to the wise man.
You're saying my point, but I want to say it more specifically.
But I want to say it
I want to say it. No, because the issue that any aging quarterback has is that he wants to hold on to the past. He doesn't want to acknowledge that he's the aging quarterback. He wants to say, remember me for all the greatness. Don't forget the greatness. I can't still be that, but don't forget it. If Uncle Sam is at this point to say, I was the hero, did all this, love me for that, but I don't want to do it anymore. But don't forget that I did all this and still praise me for doing all this. Don't forget that I did it. But there's a huge conflict there because just like the NFL, it's a what have you done for me lately world. And people's memories are really, really short. So the second you're off the hill, Wow, we are mixing metaphors like like crazy here. But the second that you're no longer king, you're not going to be. The real question is, can you say out loud what it is that you really want? Or at least all the things that you want? Because you need to be able to say out loud, I want to be remembered for what I accomplished, but I just don't want to keep doing it. When it comes to the national personality, that's the big question. There is a subset that says we still want to be that. And there's a subset that says we don't care anymore. We don't want to be that anymore. But the big question is for the people who are saying we don't want to be that anymore, do they not want to be that anymore because they think they're going to be remembered and praised as that? You have to understand if you want to be hailed as the king, you got to be the king. You got to stay there. And so you can't just give up your throne and be hailed as the king. Once you step aside, you're done.
I concur.
Hey, it's Rob from Shrink the Nation. As my friend David so eloquently states at the beginning of the show, we are clinicians, but we're not your clinician. We love to joke around and dive into the tough topics, but there's something really important we need to say. If you're struggling with your mental health or facing substance use issues, we want you to know you're not alone. We have dedicated our professional careers to mental health, and we care deeply about it. It's okay to ask for help. Reaching out to a professional in your area could be the first step toward feeling better. Don't wait. There's support out there, and it works. Please take that first step. We want you to be well. Now let's get back to the show. Oh, and don't tell David I said he was eloquent. He'll be insufferable.
Keith, this is a recurrent theme for me. You have more pure psychotherapy experience than the rest of us. You did it for years. I know you had middle-aged men come to you with this struggle. And my curiosity is, what did you do? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I hold you in high regard.
Yeah, we really hate to ask you this
Fix this for us.
very clear question in the middle of the podcast about the thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, if you need to think for a second, Keith, let me just put in that one thing to keep in mind is that given the nature of the patient, it's not one distinct person. There's many distinct groups. I would put out there that there might be a significant portion of the population that might say, hey, yes, we do want to be that power. We do want to actually expend our influence in order to maintain this. But there's another portion that definitely says, hey, we already know we're great, and now we got to focus on ourselves. And if we are the best that we can be and take care of our own people, that will demonstrate how good we're doing. There are conflicting desires there, which makes it a little bit more complicated.
I think we bring in like 9 more metaphors to make this work.
The analogy of the U.S. as an individual, in keeping with all the disparity of thoughts and feelings that come from our general population, actually, it works for a person because as a person, we have all these thoughts and feelings and conflicts. And Keith, fix this horse. All right.
Fix it, Keith. All right.
Well, you asked.
Wait,
Yeah,
we're gonna do some music over this. It's gonna be like Keith's fix it time.
That's fine. If a patient came to me in a midlife crisis, what would I do?
Tell him to buy a Corvette.
I mean, first and foremost, I would I'd set the perspective of this is going to take a while. We're going to need some time. And you can choose to hang in there with it. You can choose not to. This isn't going to happen overnight. So that's like really important on the front end to set that perspective and saying I'm not a hero. I'm not a grandiose healer. Kind of do that on purpose. But what I would do right away if I picked up that was the crisis is I would encourage or I would allow a very positive, grandiose projection or transference onto me, which would happen very quickly. It's sort of what the character is looking to do at that point. And then you would be the grandiose, benevolent, all-powerful object. But then I would use that projection and do no harm. I would support the patient. I wouldn't harm them with all that power because somewhere in their past, repeatedly, they were harmed by something very powerful. And it's sort of why they're here today. So I would just hold that for, could be a long time, months, years, and not harm them with it. And then little by little, begin to challenge them through it in ways they can integrate. But the core of it is I would allow myself to be projected on, grandiose, and I wouldn't harm them, wouldn't coddle them and they would challenge it over time, and we would talk about the challenge. How that translates to a nation would be super fun to talk about.
Well, we could pretend like we're on a podcast talking about it and
Mm.
do it right now.
That's my way of saying I hope someone has some really great ideas about how we could do it as a nation.
It's a struggle. No doubt. We've approached this from actually, and I set this up, but we went a Jungian route.
Yes, you did.
I did. Let's shift to, let's say, a self-psychology.
Hey, who's hosting this, by the way?
Oh, well,
Let's shift to self-psychology.
You're doing a shit job. No, so from a self-psychology.
Well, one of us has stuck to the protocol and had bourbon, and one of us is all wired up on caffeine. Like some sort of Sonic character.
I've had 2 pots of coffee.
Yeah, one of us, his heart's about to explode, and one of us is being awesome.
So from a self-psychology standpoint, so Kohut was the gentleman who developed this. He said that in order for us to develop what we needed were 3 things. My tongue's moving faster than
that speech with all that coffee, quote unquote.
I've got all these
Where'd you
ideas
get that coffee from?
Need to get out.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, 3 things. One was an idealized parental figure. So we needed to feel.
We need to go back to Britain.
Well, we needed to feel like there was an object, a parental object in our life that was powerful and that could protect us from the bigger world.
So we need to go to the bicycle shop.
Well, I'm going to advise the audience, our tens of listeners, stay away from bicycle shops. Just don't go there. Don't go there.
I don't know if I.
And if they offer you wine, don't drink it. And if they want you to take your shirt off, don't do it. So that's my advice. That's my my public service advice. But
Rob, you need to now watch Eurotrip and then come back to us.
There's the idealized parental object. There's a mirroring experience, and that's it actually came from Snow White, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. That when you walk into the room, you need to be able to see in your parental object that they look at you as if you are perfect and wonderful and fantastic. Then there's the concept of twinship. You come to understand that you are more alike other people than you are dissimilar to them. In other words, as a human, we have lots of crazy thoughts, feelings, and fears, but so does everyone else. As a nation, when we think in those terms, we're struggling because we're lacking in each one of those things. Our inception was in rebellion against all odds. We lack that mirroring experience. We maybe have this idealized parental object in England. We also are struggling with twinship. The U.S. is in an interesting position in that we've never really felt that we are more similar to other nations than dissimilar. We want to hold ourselves separate from other nations because we're better than. That could be a struggle, that what we're going through is not a new thing. It's happened in every nation. It feels very unique to us because we're lacking in twinship.
Well, it's the only viewpoint we have, right? Our viewpoint.
Well, and it's interesting because one of the struggles that we really have now is that we lack somebody to rebel against. We've really outgrown our parental figure. That does cause a crisis for anybody who's built their entire personality on that. When you've grown up saying everything about me is anti-establishment, anti-everything, and then you get to the point where you are it.
But that's been going on, I would say, since the beginning of our nation, though. I mean, since the Revolutionary War, you can argue that we have overcome our parent and we have won.
But we haven't. The War of 1812, we've been up until World War II. We were really a struggling nation. We got to a point where we've been on top. But we're a nation. We're not a person, but we are a nation. So it takes a long time for that personality. But we've also gone through a lot of struggles. And what have we done? We've picked fights, and we've not been super successful in doing that, right? We've gone to Vietnam. Spoiler, didn't work out very well. We tried to go to Afghanistan and didn't work out really well. We don't have a king to rebel against anymore. Historically, from a personality perspective, from that angle, it is a crisis.
If all people need an enemy and all people need a savior, from the Jungian perspective, right? If that's just part of our humanity, right? As a nation, we don't really have a clear enemy, and we don't have a clear thing we idealize. We idealize different things at different periods in history. I mean, we don't idealize the House, the Senate, the Supreme. We give it a grand name, but the Supreme. We don't idealize those things. They don't link us anymore. Maybe there was times we idealized banks or industrial giants or whatever. We don't have those two archetypal Jungian poles right now. That's a crisis. Like, how do you even begin to shape yourself without those two tensions always pulling back and forth? And that comes back to our earlier comments of hear people talk about people come together, worlds come together during a time of crisis. If we just could have one good crisis that would pull us together, that's a very damaging prescription, but probably effective in the sense of giving us those two Jungian things back.
There's no universality in that what that means either. I think that's part of the problem. Who do you idolize? If you ask 10 different people, they'll give you 10 very drastic answers in terms of the thing that they feel is where we need to be or where they want to be at. Whether it has to do with commercialism, politics, ethics, it's going to be very, very different things. I think we're so diversified in terms of the information that's out there and what we think is good and important. If I ask my kids, it's going to be Mr. Beast. That's sort of the ideal, thing that they want to get to.
Of course it is, though.
Hundreds of millions of views, right? Very influential, but has nothing to do with anything. Even if we talk
do
to
not be
other
smart,
goals
Mr.
and
Beast.
who you want to be.
He
And
will
I'm
destroy us.
Mr. Beast makes some good money making some really interesting videos, right?
You'll get deleted really quick, Amit.
No, I think, in fact, this is a promotion of Mr. Beast, if anything else. However,
Amit's last episode with us, courtesy of Mr. Beast.
right.
We're about to get $100,000 to never have Amit on again.
300 million people suddenly hate mailing you. That's good publicity. No such thing as bad publicity.
Well, I think
Eat his chocolate. Everyone eat his chocolate.
good chocolate. If at a granular level, you were to ask any individual person in America, we would probably be all over the place. But as Rob has said multiple times, turn the microscope around and look at it from that 10,000 foot view. It's a very different perspective that we're looking at. And I don't think we're all that different in the grand scheme of things. As we've alluded to, when there is the great crisis, the greatest common denominator brings people together. The problem has been, for the longest time, we've been king of the hill for so long that we're not the ones experiencing the crises. We're the ones causing them everywhere else. And even when they happen here, they're not really felt across the board. When was the last time we had a war happen at home? I mean, Rob, you were there.
I was. It was the War of 18.
Yeah, what did it spell
No, it
like,
was the
Rob?
Civil War.
It was
I
the Civil
guess.
War.
Yeah.
But that was
I was
our
was
war. But when
definitely
was
in
the
short
last time?
pants.
But the last time there was a war, a foreign war fought on U.S. soil.
1812.
Yeah, I mean, you were there for that, but and it was a scary time, but it really brought us all together, right?
It did. It did. So, if Uncle Sam came to me, it would be, hey, you're wildly successful, but you're haunted by unresolved trauma. And your future depends on whether you can accept your flaws without losing your vitality. Sorry, my hillbilly accent comes out sometimes. That's the struggle. That's where we sit. You have this history of great success, but you've never really dealt with the trauma that you were conceived in, that part of your expansion and your success created and caused these conflicts between, now I'm going to move into Freudian psychology, but the id, which drives you toward success and pleasure and all those positive
The
things,
chariot horse.
and the superego, which is your constitution and your puritanical fundamentals, and then our ego's left to manage those things, and it is nigh impossible unless
It's very, very nice.
nigh impossible to really blend those things unless we really set about to do it, unless we really do engage in psychotherapy, in which we are going to spend the time and the energy and the effort to talk about these things.
Well, that's depressing. Thanks.
Yeah.
Make another, like a riff on what you're saying, Rob. You ask what, I would do in a situation like that. Sometimes, right, what you would do is try to get the best they could do with what they had going. It's more of a behavioral thing. Help them find something more healthy to project and be grandiose about. Something that's a more healthy object than what they projected on in the past. So you let them project on you first, and then you slowly transition that and help them choose something else. As a nation, we've idealized really positive things in the past, whether it's our independence, and then a commitment to liberty and justice, and then a commitment to like spreading that around the world. There's been some high ideals we've organized around. We're lacking. I'm not saying they're low ideals or high ideals today. I think they're just kind of lacking. As a group, as a patient, we don't know what we aspire to as a group. That kind of comes back to stuff Joseph Campbell would talk about. If we don't have that as a group, as a society, it is a threat to that group's existence. It really is. I hope as a collective patient, we can begin to aspire to something reasonably positive and identify that as like a national value that we all can keep as a North Star. If you look at the savior and the hero pole, that's closer to the aspirational side of the pole, and we come around that as a patient, as a nation. And I don't know how we get there. I hope we can.
Well, making that transition from the hero to the wise man, that what we have to offer the world is concept of the Constitution and freedom and respecting the will of the people and protecting the minority. So we're run by the will of the majority. We're protecting the minority and respecting, this is liberal with a little L, liberal democracy, that we allow all voices to be heard. And sitting with that and tolerating that and being the example for the world would be where we aspire to be. That we can't be a young man forever. We have to grow old. In growing old, we have to adjust. How we accomplish that is a question mark.
Well, Rob, how have you accomplished that? You've already gone through
In
that.
your 150 years.
Yeah, it's challenging.
Well said.
To say the least.
No, I mean, it's from an individual standpoint, it is a challenging transition, not to be the person that necessarily fixes things, but to be the person that is the example of how they have fixed it in the past. That's hard, and it requires a certain restraint and a certain acceptance of the loss of capacity and capability that is difficult and one struggles against.
Well said, too, for how we're getting along as a group at the international level.
Same applies, for sure.
And I have 0 prescriptions here. None.
Well, it's your patient.
I
Yeah, this
know,
is your patient.
Well,
For the water supply,
I would
Rob. What do
say,
you want for the water supply?
Face your shadow, grow up. That's what I would, and okay, I'll do a prescription actually. That from a prescription standpoint, it feels to me that our best bet is history and is education, and it is facing the challenges and the inconsistencies between what we like. You go talk to the average American and say, what do we believe in? What they say is probably going to be freedom and equality. Facing those challenges in which our history is one in which freedom and equality has not been a consistency for a good swath of our population. Additionally, we are a population of immigrants and of the minority that becomes the majority over time. And that's something we have to just sit with and accept and be comfortable with. And it's a struggle. But our best bet is probably our kids and communicating this to our children and getting them to understand this, that if there's hope for us, it may not be sitting with us. It's sitting with our children.
Or opening a bicycle shop.
Well, that's one way to get
Rob,
the kids in.
That was inspired and beautiful. Can I say the inverse of that prescription? Like as an example of to kind of highlight what we're encouraging and talking about on this podcast, sort of give the inverse of it to make it more clear, like what you wouldn't prescribe or what you would hope, like the other option. You could go another way. There's 2 treatment tracks. Yours, wonderful, healthy, life-giving. And there's another treatment track. And it's like Viagra, testosterone, an anabolic steroid, right? And like that's how you cope with that crisis and that loss. And
Thought we were going to be nice about Hulk Hogan.
And I suppose it works for a while. And maybe we can kind of use our imagination and see how that's happening in our country today. And that works for a while. I mean, it does work. Problem is when all those options, when all those pills don't do their thing anymore, you're still left with the crisis.
So Corvette, get a Corvette then.
Yeah, get a Corvette, get a prescription for Viagra and minoxidil for the hair loss. And
but it's like, but if we all keep kicking the can collectively down the road, right? Eventually the line of credit runs out.
It does.
right? But if we decide, I'm just going to sit and look at the debt and pay it and work on it now, once it's paid off, you have potential. You could be a rich nation internally, spiritually, externally. But you have to take the time to stop and take an inventory and be honest.
Mitt, you got one?
Honestly, nothing that concrete. I think for taking back to our patient on the couch, I'm really interested in what is it that they really want. And based on that, I think you can go somewhere. Problem is that there's very conflicting things that are wanted. And if that's the case, then we're not really going to get anywhere until we resolve that. But I mean, can't go wrong with Viagra, I guess.
Hey, you just want some Viagra, everyone. Everybody gets Viagra.
It's a good place to put a point on it and end.
I will
Oh, and watch The Watchmen and then come back to me.
with Viagra.
I wouldn't recommend it.
The blue pill and the blue man. So thank God he didn't have Viagra through that movie. I would still ask the question, but my prescription would still be to say, verbalize and honestly answer the question of what is it that you truly want? I know you said that, but to actually say it out loud and to address the conflict, to be able to say what it really is. What I've found with anybody is it's there, but they don't hear it until they say it out loud. This is what I want, which is fine. We can go through our lives wanting conflicting things, but until we say it out loud and hear it, we don't always understand that we just can't have them both. And that's where that healing can start to begin.
And I think maybe adding on to that, David, like pick one, because you're asking for 3 different things. Pick one that you think is more important to you, because you may not have them well. And I think that can be hard too, right?
Well, it's impossible. Well, it can be impossible, but that's the goal of the therapy, is to get to the point where you say, I can finally stick with the one and be okay with losing out on the other one or the other 3.
And that is the power of psychotherapy, that we have these thoughts that live in our head and we think we understand them because they're in our head and we think about them constantly. Psychotherapy forces you to put it to words. And sometimes those words alter how you perceive it. And you're right. What you just said is that in saying it out loud, it takes on a different character, different quality. And sometimes the ridiculous all of a sudden sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. Can't be omnipotent forever. We just can't. No one can. And whether we're talking individually or as a nation.
If all else fails, you know what? Embrace the messiness. Take 3 deep breaths and say, I'm a glorious clusterfuck, and that's okay.
Charlie Foxtrot.
Have your bourbon and go on with your day. I think that pretty much wraps up this wonderful, awesome episode 10.
Episode 10.
Episode 10. Thank you to Cooper's Craft and their 100 proof. I will be crawling out from behind a dumpster in an alley tomorrow morning, regretting all the decisions I've made today.
Every decision.
I
want to thank Dunkin Donuts for making a superb coffee that really kept me clear. And I was on point.
And practicing for our promotions. Thank you, dear Tin Cup, for your 14 years.
Absolutely.
It is fantastic.
And the wonderful mixture of beer and gin. Keith will definitely not regret.
And V8 juice. Thank you, Campbell's. Appreciate all your support.
V8 was the last time several days ago. It was days ago. Definitely not. That was days ago.
We concur.
So socials at shrinkthenation.com. Smash that subscribe button on all of the whatever streaming platform is your favorite. We are on socials. Thank you so much for everybody who's reaching out. We are getting to all the comments that we possibly can. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you reaching out. Leave a comment on whatever platform. Give us a rating if you can. Hopefully a good one. We really appreciate you even sticking out there. All the tens of you that are doing it. It'll be the tens will be there forever. Stick around. Hopefully next week or so we'll have a good announcement on some work that I've been doing behind the scenes, maybe making this a little more accessible, and really appreciate everybody for sticking around this long. And thank you, Mitt, for being around again. Keith, thanks for grabbing something other than V8 this time. Rob, fuck you and your coffee. But if you get Dunkin Donuts in here, man, we love you so much. If you can get us Dunkin Donuts,
it would be a coup.
Yeah, we will all be drinking. We will just be shaking. There will be no bourbon in sight. It'll just be us and donuts and coffee.
Without a doubt, I'm
Matcha
sitting at like
lattes.
800 milligrams of caffeine right now.
Yeah. Well, go off and drain that.
And please don't forget to check out our merch.
Exactly. The t-shirts.
So I guess we're making
the
merch
hats.
now. We'll make merch at some point. Now we might. Who knows? Hey, if we get an interest in merch,
Yeah,
we'll make merch. I know have actually had asks for merch. We're not quite there, but we'll get our logo and whatnot, and we'll do some merch at some
I want
point.
some merch.
We'll
Let's do it.
We'll consider merch.
We need hats.
Once we get enough people interested, we'll be doing merch.
All right.
And then I'll be just vomited merch. I'll be looking like the Shrink the Nation version of Kid Rock at the White House. Top to bottom in neon orange and blue or whatever we end up doing. I don't know. All right. Cue up the music.
All right, we're out.
Sounds good.
All right, I love this music.
All right.
Peace. Thanks, all.